Dan Orlovsky pleads for Browns to change Shedeur Sanders' status. The days and weeks leading to the Cleveland Browns' first preseason game, rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders was at the bottom of the depth chart in terms of available passers. It was only until injuries to Kenny Pickett and rookie Dillon Gabriel that led to Sanders was pushed into the starting role for the team. Sanders took full advantage of his starting time, pulling off some incredible tight window throws for 2 touchdowns and picking up some good yardage on the ground. Despite a couple of mistakes he shone in his pro debut. Sanders ended his first time starting in an NFL game with 14-4, 23 passing attempts, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 carries for 19 yards. The result of Sanders' performance has led many to question the Browns' approach to their quarterback room, including how it relates to the rookie. Former NFL quarterback and analyst Dan Orlovsky took to First Take to plead that the Browns give Sanders way more time with the first and second teams moving forward. He proved to me that he is absolutely demanding of more reps with the second and first teams, against the second and first teams. I have been very adamant that Cleveland should start one of these rookies. I really believe that. And what we saw from Shedeur coming off the reports in the summer. Shedeur had another good day. He looked like comfort in total control. He played really fast and didn't panic. If I were the Browns, he would be getting reps with the starters this week. Orlovsky is pointing to the fact that Sanders was not getting first team or even second team reps due to his being 4th on the depth chart. However, his performance highlights the idea that Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski should be moving him up the depth chart as soon as this week. Sanders is sure to get those opportunities this week, considering that both Pickett and Gabriel are dealing with hamstring injuries. It was reported that Gabriel returned to 11-on-11 team activities, but Pickett remains on 7-on-7, which means he is not as far along in recovery. With the second preseason game coming this weekend, the Browns will take on the Philadelphia Eagles on Saturday, August 16th. Should Sanders get more first-team reps and be the starter again, he could make another statement regarding his professional capabilities. Sanders was also humble following the game, apologizing to his father, Deion Sanders, about not playing well enough. Shedeur may feel that way, but anyone watching the game would likely disagree. For now, the world will wait to see what Stefanski does in regards to Sanders, but he should at least be moving up the depth chart in a big way should he have another good game in preseason week 2. The lights of the ESPN studio bathed Dan Orlovsky in that familiar glow. The morning rundown was packed: Jets camp drama, an injury update in Baltimore, a fantasy sleeper debate. But Dan had only one thing on his mind: Shedeur Sanders. The rookie quarterback had turned Cleveland's preseason into a headline factory after his near-flawless debut. For Orlovsky, a former NFL quarterback himself, the performance wasn't just a fun August story. It was a flashing neon sign for the Browns coaching staff. You have something special. Act on it now. As the get-up countdown clock ticked toward his segment, Orlovsky tapped his notes with the urgency of a man who'd seen this movie before. He'd been that young quarterback once, in Detroit and Houston, the guy who needed the right moment, the right vote of confidence before his chance slipped away. This wasn't about hype. This was about making sure the Browns didn't fumble a gift. The on-air plea. The camera's red light flicked on. "Listen," Orlovsky began, leaning forward, hands chopping the air for emphasis. "I'm not saying you bench Deshaun Watson tomorrow. I'm not saying you crown Shedeur Sanders the next franchise quarterback after one preseason game. But what I am saying, and Browns fans, hear me on this, is that you cannot let this kid go back to holding a clipboard after what we just saw." He replayed Sanders' 42-yard corner strike against Carolina, pausing mid-throw. "Look at that anticipation. Look at that touch. This isn't a kid guessing. This is a quarterback reading the defense and putting the football exactly where it has to be." Dan glanced over at Mike Greenberg, who was already grinning, knowing his co-host was about to turn the table over. "You have to change his status," Orlovsky continued. "You have to bump him up the depth chart. Give him first-team reps in practice. Let him work with Amari Cooper, with David Njoku, with the guys he'd actually be throwing to if the Browns need him in September. This is about preparation, not promotion. You don't waste time when you've got this much talent staring you in the face." The backstory. Part of Dan's passion came from a deep understanding of the quarterback development curve. He knew the danger of letting a rookie marinate too long behind veterans. In some cases, it worked. In others, the talent dulled before it could be sharpened by the speed of the game. In Shedeur's case, Orlovsky believed the mental and physical tools were already NFL ready. He had watched the kid in college, calm feet in the pocket, surgical accuracy, and a leadership style that mirrored his father's charisma. Against Carolina, Shedeur didn't just manage the offense, he elevated it. The Browns, in Orlovsky's mind, had been gifted a developmental timeline they didn't plan for. Now, the only question was whether they'd adjust. The Browns' perspective. Back in Berea, Kevin Stefanski was doing what coaches do best, trying to mute the noise. One game, he told the media when asked about Sanders' performance. It's a great start, but it's a start. Still, reporters noticed the subtle shift in tone. The usual coach-speak guardrails were there, but Stefanski didn't shut the door on the idea of an elevated role for Sanders. GM Andrew Berry, too, had to weigh the value of fast-tracking a rookie versus keeping him sheltered. After all, the Browns had made a massive financial commitment to Watson. But Berry wasn't blind. He'd seen the locker room's reaction to Sanders. Young players in particular gravitated toward him. In a league where chemistry can be as important as scheme, that mattered. The public reaction. Orlovsky's clip spread like wildfire across social media. Fans flooded the Browns' official Twitter account with hashtags like #FreeShedeur and #QB2Now. Former players chimed in, some agreeing with Dan, others warning that rushing a rookie too quickly could backfire. Deion Sanders, Shedeur's father, even responded on his own account. At Dan Orlovsky 7 knows what's up. Proud of my son, but even prouder of the way he's earned respect in that building. Keep ballin' too. It wasn't an outright campaign, but it wasn't exactly subtle, either. Behind closed doors. By midweek, whispers out of Cleveland suggested Sanders had, in fact, gotten a handful of first-team practice reps. Nothing official, but enough to keep the storyline alive. One Browns staffer, speaking anonymously, told a local radio station, "Look, the guy's not going back to QB4, I can promise you that. Whether it's QB2 or QB3, he's moving up." Orlovsky's plea seemed to have struck a chord. Not necessarily because the Browns were following ESPN's advice, but because the logic was undeniable. If Sanders was one injury away from seeing the field, the team needed him to be ready for the moment.